Pam Bondi was used to the sharp tongues and cutting remarks of the political arena, but nothing had quite prepared her for the ridicule she'd face on a seemingly ordinary podcast episode. It started as just another event, a casual fundraiser where indie rock musician Jackson Weller, known for his progressive takes and biting humor, was regaling the crowd with stories from his days performing at charity gigs. Halfway through his set, as he recounted a backstage encounter with political figures, the host offhandedly asked, "Ever run into anyone from politics backstage?" Jackson chuckled, took a sip of his drink, and leaned in. Pam Bondi was at one of those events, he said, his tone both amused and irreverent. "Nice lady, I guess, but honestly, I doubt she can tell a grand piano from coffee mug." Laughter erupted from the young, left-leaning crowd, and for a split second, it seemed as though mockery had already sealed her fate. Clips of his jab were clipped, looped, and soon turned into memes with captions like, "Jackson dragged Pam Bondi with a musical burn," and "Pam, do you even know what a piano is?" Back in Tampa, Pam was sitting quietly at her kitchen counter when her phone buzzed with a viral clip. Her niece had sent it along with a string of laughing emojis. Pam watched it once, then twice, her face remaining impassive. No dramatic roll of the eyes, no overt reaction, just a calm, measured sigh as she closed the video and set her phone face down. Her tea had cooled, but she showed no outward sign of frustration. Instead, a quiet determination stirred within her. Jackson hadn't finished the conversation, and Pam had a plan. A week later, as Jackson Weller mentioned her again in an interview with a Seattle-based online magazine, "I guess she's lawyer smart, sure, but I doubt she's got a creative bone in her body. You can't fake art. Either you feel it or you don't." The tone shifted. What began as an offhand joke had taken on a sharper, more personal edge. Some fans laughed it off, but a growing number felt that Jackson had crossed a line. Older viewers started to wonder, is it really necessary to mock someone like that? Can't we just let the music speak for itself? Unbeknownst to Jackson, Pam had received a last-minute invitation to a high-profile charity event in Sarasota, a music and arts fundraiser for underprivileged children. Unlike her usual role as a spokesperson or a stern legal mind on press briefings, Pam was attending this event as a quiet donor, someone who preferred to support from the sidelines. She hadn't planned on stepping into the spotlight. In fact, she hadn't performed publicly in over 15 years. But as the event approached, something inside her shifted. Later that week, in the quiet solitude of her guest room at home, Pam pulled off the old sheet covering her upright piano. Running her fingers over the keys, she was flooded with memories of her childhood in Dunedin, Florida, of evenings spent playing classical pieces under the tutelage of Mrs. Donatelli, whose stern corrections had taught her that music was about truth, not perfection. Pam's heart swelled with a long-dormant passion for music. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was a quiet, burning desire to reclaim a part of herself that had been silenced by the demands of public life. That night, as the charity event's venue, the elegant Ritz-Carlton Ballroom in Sarasota began to fill with local politicians, celebrities, philanthropists, and artists, Pam arrived without fanfare. Clad in a simple yet elegant black satin dress and minimal accessories, she made her way to the guest area. Across the room, Jackson Weller was already in performance mode, casually bantering with journalists and fellow musicians. He wore a brown suede jacket and an open-collared shirt, his guitar case leaning casually against the table. He hadn't expected to see Pam there, but when he did, he couldn't resist a quip. Well, look who decided to join us. Didn't know art fundraisers were your thing," he called out, raising his glass with a mischievous grin. Pam turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "Jackson," she said politely, "I'm here for the kids, for the cause, not to perform, and certainly not for you to judge my tastes." Her voice was measured and calm, a stark contrast to the rowdy banter that had marked their earlier encounter. Jackson's grin faltered for a moment. He expected her to dismiss the comment with a witty comeback, but instead, Pam's quiet dignity spoke volumes. Later, as the event unfolded with its typical mix of mingling and fundraising auctions, Jackson's team began their set. Yet, throughout the evening, Pam remained in the background until a turning point arrived. As the night progressed, a few minutes before Jackson's performance was set to conclude, the MC announced an unexpected intermission, a tribute to individuals who had made a significant impact beyond their public persona. In that moment, all eyes turned as Pam Bondi was invited on stage. No one expected it. She had always been the unassuming, behind-the-scenes powerhouse. But now, in a twist of fate, she stepped up to the grand Steinway piano placed at center stage. The spotlight bathed her in a soft, golden glow. The hush of the room was palpable. Without any preamble, Pam sat at the piano. Her hands hovered over the keys as she closed her eyes, gathering a lifetime's worth of memories and resolve. Then, with deliberate calm, she began to play Clair de Lune, a piece that had once defined her youthful passion for music. The notes spilled out slowly, with a quiet intensity that was both practiced and raw. Each keystroke resonated with years of untold emotion, of quiet battles fought and won in solitude. The audience, initially expecting a brief interlude, found themselves entranced. The murmurs faded into reverent silence. Even Jackson, who had once mocked her on a podcast, stood at the back, his expression shifting from amusement to stunned admiration. For 10 minutes, time seemed to slow as Pam played. Her performance was not merely technical. It was an outpouring of her soul, a reclaiming of a piece of herself that had been hidden behind suits, press conferences, and courtrooms. The notes were gentle yet powerful, melancholy yet hopeful, speaking of loss and redemption without a single word being uttered. In that moment, the long-ignored melody of her past filled the room with undeniable beauty. When the final note faded into silence, the applause that followed was not forced politeness, but genuine, heartfelt appreciation. There was no dramatic bow, no overt display of victory, just quiet clapping that built steadily into a roar of approval. Pam returned to her seat with no grand gesture, only a subtle nod and a calm smile that said she had said everything she needed to. The next morning, social media exploded with the footage of Pam's performance. Headlines blared. Pam Bondi silences critics with stunning piano performance. And from mockery to mastery, Pam Bondi's quiet revolution. Legal analysts and cultural commentators alike debated the significance of the event. Some hailed it as a moment of unexpected elegance in a world often dominated by loud rhetoric, while others noted the powerful message: true strength lies in quiet conviction. In the days following the event, Pam received a flood of messages, emails from supporters, heartfelt notes from strangers who said her performance had touched them, and even a message from a 16-year-old music student in Arizona who admitted, "I've always been scared to take piano lessons, but watching you, I feel inspired to try." Pam kept these messages close, a reminder that her quiet defiance had sparked something real. Meanwhile, Jackson Weller, now less certain of his earlier mockery, reflected on the incident. In a subsequent interview with a local Seattle online magazine, he admitted, "I thought I had nailed that joke, but Pam, she turned it around in a way that was so genuine, it left me speechless." His words hinted at a newfound respect and a realization that sometimes the quietest moments hold the most power. As the story spread beyond the confines of the charity event, it evolved into a broader conversation about authenticity, public perception, and the courage to stand by one's beliefs. Debates ignited in newsrooms and on social media. Should public figures be reduced to mere caricatures? How much of our identity should we be forced to hide for the sake of political convenience? And in a world where quick judgments often drown out genuine talent, was it possible that quiet, unassuming moments could remind us of our shared humanity? In the end, Pam Bondi's unexpected performance did more than just humble her critics. It reshaped the narrative around her. No longer was she merely the stern, unsmiling attorney or the politically astute spokesperson. She was a musician, a storyteller, and a living testament to the power of resilience. Her performance became a symbol of defiance against the relentless noise of mockery, a reminder that when you stand by your truth, even the harshest critics might find themselves changed. As the days turned to weeks, the Pam Bondi piano incident became a cultural touchstone, referenced in discussions about free expression, personal identity, and the value of quiet defiance in an age of constant controversy. And while Pam herself never sought the spotlight, her legacy that night continued to speak, softly, yet unmistakably, across a nation hungry for authenticity and truth.